How's it going? Ryan here at etrailer.com. Today on our 2020 Jeep Wrangler JL Unlimited, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the CURT Class 3 trailer hitch receiver. Now, one of the things that separates this one from some of the other hitches available is that it's going to have a little bit longer of a receiver tube. That way, the end of our receiver tube opening is going to sit about flush with our bumper and that much closer to the edge of our spare tire. And that's going to work really well, especially for any folding accessories. Now, since it does extend out more, it is going to be a little bit more visible. So if you're looking for something that has more of a hidden look, the etrailer.com shorter hitch sits back a little bit further and is a little more difficult to see, especially since it also has a matte black finish. So if that's something you're into, that would be a good choice there. Now, since this is a Class 3 hitch, it's going to have that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. And it's also going to have the standard 5/8 size pinhole. Now keep in mind, a pin and clip does not come included, but if you need one, you can find it here at etrailer.com. Now it has plate style safety chain openings, which aren't huge, but there is enough room here to use just about any size hook that you might have. Now as far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have a 350-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating. So that's the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So that's going to work good for those 1 to 4 bike racks and many different types of cargo carriers. Now as far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to be 3,500 pounds. So that's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So that's a weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. Now this can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component, but if you are using one of those, the weight capacities do increase. The maximum tongue weight rating goes up to 400 pounds, and the maximum gross trailer weight rating increases to 4,000 pounds. But I do want to point out, it's never a bad idea to check with your Jeep's owner's manual to make sure you can pull that much weight. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you're going to use these to help figure out which hitch-mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be about 19 inches. And you're going to use that to figure out if you need to get a ball mount with either a drop or a rise. From the center of the hitch pinhole to the edge of our bumper, it's going to be about 2.5 inches. And from the center of the hitch pinhole to the edge of our spare tire, that's going to be about 7 inches. And you're going to use that to figure out if any folding accessories that you might have can be stored in the upright position without contacting our vehicle or the tire. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and something I want to point out, is that our current tires are 245/75/17. So depending on what size tires you have, those measurements could change a little bit. So overall, good versatile hitch that's going to allow you to do a little bit of everything. And this one's going to be that happy medium as far as length goes. Some of the other ones come out further, and the others sit back. This one's going to be just about flush and in the middle. Now, as far as the installation goes, it's really straightforward. You should have no problem doing it by yourself at home, and it shouldn't take up a whole lot of your time. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be working here underneath our Jeep, right behind our bumper. So here on our bumper beam, we're going to have 4 holes that we're going to use for our attachment points to hold the hitch up into place. Now, I do want to point out on some models, they're going to have some hardware in those holes, as well as a spacer plate that kind of sets up right here along our bumper beam. Well, on those particular models, what you're going to do is remove those bolts, as well as the spacer plate, and you want to make sure to hold on to those factory bolts because we're actually going to use those to secure the hitch into place, but you can set the spacer plate aside because that will not be getting reinstalled. Now, the hardware that we're going to be using for all 4 of our attachment points is we're going to take a bolt and a flat washer and put that flat washer on our bolt. Now, what I like to do before we put our hitch up into place is actually just run that bolt through our holes and make sure that they slide right through, or even if you have to turn it a little bit to get them through. That way it'll make installing our hitch a lot easier, because sometimes I've had cases where the bolts don't just slide right through all the holes, and you might have to come in there with a file or a drill bit and kind of enlarge them a little bit to allow that bolt just to pass right on through. All these are looking pretty good. And check that last one. Now that we verified our bolt goes right through, we can put our hitch up into place. So now grab our hitch and line the holes up in the hitch with our attachment points. We'll push it on our bumper beam. Now that we got it lined up, we'll hold it in position and just slide all of our hardware to our attachment points. That way, once we have at least a couple bolts through, that hitch will support itself. So now we can secure our bolts using the flange nuts. So kind of just reach your hand up in there and line that nut up with the bolt and turn that bolt to get it started hand tight. Now in this particular case, we do have a little bit of room here, but some Jeeps, that gap isn't as big and it can be really difficult to kind of hold your fingers up and get that nut started on the bolt. So a trick I found to make it a little easier is to take the open end of your wrench and get a piece of tape, just using some packing tape, kind of stick it to the wrench and then take that flange nut, put it in the wrench, and then you can kind of tape that nut to the wrench. And then that'll allow you to hold your wrench up, kind of line it up with the bolt, and get it started. And sometimes that just makes it a little bit easier. Now once I have this one hand tight, I'm going to repeat the same process for the rest of our hardware. With all of our hardware in place and hand tight, I'll just use a couple of wrenches to snug it all down. Now we can use a torque wrench to tighten all the hardware to the specification found in our instructions. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT Class 3 Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2020 Jeep Wrangler JL Unlimited.